Thanks so much for that kind introduction, Natasha. And it's amazing to see everybody on this call. I know it's 9 p.m. for a lot of you there, a Thursday evening. It's 9 in the morning here. I'm dialing in from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I couldn't tell you how glad I am to see all the faces here on the Zoom call. Today, I'd like to really just keep it very interactive amongst all of us. So I'm just going to roughly touch upon kind of 4 points. My discussion is really, I'm just going to give a little quick introduction on myself. Who am I? The second one is I'm going to talk about is, why is networking important? The third one will be, well, what are some keys for networking? And finally, your ultimate networking platform is right here. It's the Presidential Scholars. So I'm going to quickly touch upon that. So as Natasha mentioned, I'm a child of the 80s. When I was growing up, we always thought the 80s was not a cool decade, but now it's all of a sudden a cool decade. A little bit about myself. I went to a public high school on Long Island, and I was classmates. And I want to say this name, and I know all of you are going to look back and maybe not know who she is. I was classmates with a singer called Debbie Gibson. Does that ring up? No. Okay. Sarah there knows. Okay, excellent. My daughter knows her as the person who played Katy Perry's mom on her video. So when I was growing up, Debbie Gibson was like Britney Spears. And I'll tell you guys a funny story. I was actually invited to go with her to see her on tour in Florida. This was in like 1988. And like most of you, I had a mother who was very strict and also Asian. So I see a lot of Asians there. And my Asian mother was like, absolutely not. You can't go. What's going to happen to your studies? So I missed the opportunity of a lifetime. And I always kid my mother about that still. Other kind of famous alum from my high school, if you guys like ice cream, have you heard of Ben and Jerry? Yeah, they went to my high school. And if you watch CNN or read the Washington Post, a guy called Dana Milbank. So those are some alumni from my high school. I was very fortunate. I went to Harvard, and one of my best experiences at Harvard was living next door to a guy called David Mandel. And because through him, I was the inspiration for Seinfeld's movie phone episode. Have you guys ever watched that? Okay. Well, if you look at, so again, the people you meet in college randomly, they're all, keep yourself open to those possibilities. You never know who you're going to meet. That's going to be kind of interesting. When I was growing up, the challenges of the day were kind of, nuclear war. During the 80s, President Reagan, I got my medal from President Reagan. And the fear at the time was catastrophic nuclear war. In 7th grade for my science project, and now I'm going to sound like a nerd here, I built a bomb shelter in my backyard. Okay. And so what I'm trying to say is, at that time, we thought, wow, the whole world, we used to run kind of air raid drills where we had to hide under the desks. We had to go into the bomb shelters in the basements of every school. But I have to say, things look, for your generation, you're entering into an era that I think is a lot tougher than what we had to go through. And back then, Presidential Scholars, I'll share just one more story, is we called it, you guys call it the National Recognition Program. And I know you missed that this year. And it was just I really feel bad, and we're going to try everything we can to make that up so you guys get to experience that. But you missed that. For us, back in the 80s and the 70s, it was called the National Recognition Week. All the Presidential Scholars got together for a week. We met with our Congress representatives. We went to all the museums. I see Sarah there nodding her head. I mean, it was fantastic. Unfortunately, those programs, due to budget cuts, have been reduced. It is now just a recognition program, but it's still amazing. And I'll tell you a funny story. Again, my Asian mother, my Chinese mother, very strict. I was not allowed to go to my high school prom. And what made up for that was when I went to Presidential Scholars, I met a lot of great people. I ended up meeting, you know, some female scholars that we kept in touch with, and that was sort of like they had a dance, and that was my that was sort of like my makeup prom. And then back then, we'd write letters to each other, and I'd always go to the mailbox and wait 2.5 weeks. She was somewhere in the Midwest. And because we had to write letters, because my mother would not allow me to make a long distance phone call. Because back then there were no such things as, you know, email or mobile phones. So I know you guys are, look, you guys you're facing a tough situation, but again, what I'm trying to say is look at the silver lining. Okay. So I want to stop right here. What did I do right now in terms of networking? What have I done? Anybody, Freya, what was I trying to do right in that beginning there?
You've established a connection between yourself and us, and then you've also like identified some differences that you've experienced and perhaps some opportunities for us as well.
Absolutely. So the first rule of networking is, listen, you guys are all amazing. Okay? There's no question about that. When the first thing you got to do in networking is now make a human connection, because right now you guys are all numbers, right? Your SAT score, your GPA, your college, and that's great. But when I look at the screen right now, right, I need to know something more. And I'm going to tell you one of the key things in human communication. People actually don't remember statistics. You know what do people remember? People remember stories. Okay, so we're gonna walk away. What Natasha said was great, blah, blah, blah. I'm a great guy, successful. You're not gonna remember any of that. You're probably gonna remember, oh, Tom's the guy who went to high school with Debbie Gibson, and his mom wouldn't allow him to go to the prom. And back then he had to write letters to this girl that he had a secret crush on. That's what you're gonna remember. And when you're networking, that's something you've got to establish. Okay, I'm a presidential scholar, so, and like many of you, you know, I was a first generation here, right? And my parents, their mantra was always, hey, listen, you just keep your mouth shut, work twice as hard, you know, don't say anything, and people will recognize it. Like, great work gets recognized. And to a certain extent, yes, that's true. You have all been recognized for the amazing things you've done. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. As you go higher up in whatever profession you end up choosing, everybody is similarly talented, has the same high IQ, but the people who have, you know, who get that lucky break, right, or get that access to opportunity, those are the people who put themselves in the right place at the right time, right? You may look at that and go, man, that guy is just, she's always so lucky, or he's always so lucky. How come he's getting that chance and I'm not? I'm working just as hard. How come nobody notices? Okay, it has to do with understanding networking. So now I'm going to talk about, so why is networking important? Because, again, when I was growing up, the emphasis was always on what do you know? What you know is more important than who you know, right? Is that what you guys were taught? Any feedback there? Nods of the head? No, not really. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, who you know is as important. It's got to be in balance. Okay, so let me just stress this. A lot of presidential scholars, look, you guys are the smartest people. You already have the what you know. What you know will get you to where you are now, but you also need the who you know. Now, the problem, you're going to also meet a lot of people who don't have the what you know. They don't know anything. They know a lot of the who you know. And that's also dangerous. Okay? And you know those people I'm talking about, right? They've gotten ahead in life, not because they're really smart. It's just because they get better access. Okay? Presidential scholars, you're unique. You already have the what you know. So what I'm going to try to tell you today is how to increase those opportunities. And how do you get more access, opportunities to put yourself in front of the right people who can recognize what you're great at and your talent and your skills. Okay. Now, for a lot of young people, certainly the way I was taught was, you know what? You're not supposed to ask. That's being shameless. That's being pushy. That's being aggressive. And oftentimes that was usually that applied to minorities back in the day, and also particularly to women. Okay. And I see Susan there nodding her head. So what I want to say now is that's not true. Okay. Networking is critical. It gets you more access to opportunities because you deserve them. Okay. So right now is the first thing I want to teach you about networking is I'm going to start off here is, first of all, you guys have it really bad. Okay. I thought I had it bad. We didn't, we had to wait for letters for 2.5 weeks, but no, you guys have it bad. Okay. You're in like the worst, once in 100-year global pandemic. You can't go to school. Okay. You've got an economic recession. I think it's going to be worse than the 08-09 one. Now we've got this sweeping movement to finally address a lot of the systemic, racial inequality in our country. Things that started in the 60s, maybe even earlier in the 1850s, never been fully addressed, coming to a boil now. You have to deal with that. And on top of that, we got climate change, the oceans deteriorating, pollution's not going away. And what else is there? I'm running out of things, right? Oh, and automation, by the way. I'm investing into all these companies that are going to put people out of work, because that's what I do as a venture capitalist. And so you're coming of age, entering this market now. Okay? Boy, that sounds bad. All right, so the first thing is look on the bright side. One of the key things of being a great networker, you have to have relentless optimism. Okay? So you're in this situation. You know what? So is everybody else. So make yourself feel a little better. You're not the only one. Everybody's dealing with it. Okay, now what do you have going for you? You're a presidential scholar. Holy moly, you guys are the best and the brightest this country has to offer. All right, before you go to bed, just remind yourself of that, and also thank your parents, teachers, mentors, whoever helped you get there. Because here's a key thing. Success is never individual. Nobody achieves success on their own. It takes a damn village. Yeah, you're bright. Yeah, you took the SAT. You're the one writing the papers, but you had people who helped you along the way. And the people who are most successful at networking are the ones who appreciate and then recognize those that help them. Okay, so without knowing all of you too well, I can guess that if you are somebody who is appreciative of your teachers or parents who helped you achieve the success that you've gotten today, you're going to probably be a great networker. And the reason for that is, as you go on in life, your parents who helped you or your teachers in the beginning are going to be replaced by industry experts and professionals. And I can tell you, Susan probably will agree, you're more likely to help people who just appreciate the work that you're doing for them, right? And you're more likely to help those that you sense in them that they're going to pay it forward to others. Because that's how society works. Okay? So remember your teachers were like, oh, I'm just going to pick a name here. Conrad, like you're a great guy, but you got to do some volunteer work, right? Did you do volunteer work? Not really. Okay. Or maybe I picked the wrong guy. John, did you do volunteer work?
I did do some volunteer work. Yep.
Okay. Now, for most of us back then, we were just like, we got to check the box, right? I got better things to do. I could be hanging out with my friends. I just got to fulfill that. Because presidential scholars, we seek approval, right? From our parents, our teachers, and our friends. And so we did it. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I finally understood the reason why public service and volunteering is really important. You want to know why? Are you guys ready? Okay. Because it is the best indicator of who you are going to be when you grow up. Okay, I'm in the venture capital business, right? So I meet a lot of guys who are ambitious. They want to start their own companies. They want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. They want to make $1 billion, and that's great. But let me share a secret with you. Another one. Ready? Money never changes you. It only makes you more of what you already are. And so what do I mean by that? Okay, you're all presidential scholars. You've been given this unbelievable opportunity. And a lot of us are saying, hey, you need to step up even more and serve the country. And if you were like me back then, you're like, I am busy. When I get a job and when I'm really successful, I'll donate money and then I'll do public service. Well, here's a fact. If you're not already doing public service or donating now, and it doesn't matter what the amounts are, when you become a billionaire, you are not going to do any more public service or donating than you're doing now. Okay? So if you were a generous person before you were fabulously rich and successful, you're only going to be more generous. But if you're a stingy bastard and you don't help others now, and you get really successful, you aren't going to be helping anybody else when you get richer. You're just going to be more stingy. Okay? And that's why when people are looking at young folks, that becomes very important. Because for all of us here, presidential scholars is really an act of love, right? After this call with all of you, I've got like 4 or 5 other meetings, but I want to do it because I was helped along the way. And I want to help those who are going to take this opportunity. If I can help you a little, you will then pay it forward and help the next generation of presidential scholars, right? But I only got a limited amount of hours in the day. Do I help Mia? Do I help Sarah? Do I help Amy, Freya? I don't know. But one of the key things are I'm going to look at who's already doing public service. Because if I can help them, there's a higher chance that they're going to go out and help others. And that's why public service is so important. Okay? So networking is very critical, right? So you've got to do that, and then you've got to do the public service. And so now I'm going to tell you how public service helps you network, right? First of all, you already know this. You're at school. You got to get involved. I know everything is being done on Zoom right now, but this is the time more than ever. Look, internships have gone away. Summer jobs have gone away. Jobs in general. Look, I can't even imagine how tough it is for you guys. But again, relentless optimism. Look at the silver lining. What are we doing right now that was unachievable 20 years ago? Can someone tell me? What are we doing right now?
Talking to people all over the world.
There you go, Olivia. Thank you. That didn't exist before. In the old days, we'd be writing letters to each other. You'd be waiting 2.5 weeks to get a reply. We are now in the age of instant communication. You can reach anybody. So use that as an advantage. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing now is, again, I know a lot of you have your own social media, right? Mia, what social media are you on?
I mostly use Instagram just to post like photos of my art and stuff like that.
So Mia, I just learned a new word today. So you're on the IG, is that what they call it? I'm trying to be cool here.
I'm on another one. I'm on the gram.
Oh, the gram. Oh, Telegram. Is that what is that? Yeah.
No, Instagram, but just the gram.
Oh my God, I can't see. I'm so out of date. I apologize. Okay. So look, just like I have a lot to learn from you, I'm going to give you some advice, okay, on how to network here with others. The first thing is, how many of you guys are on LinkedIn? Most. Okay. Get on LinkedIn. I know it's not cool. In fact, we had another scholar, Grant. When I said, are you on LinkedIn? He said, Tom, I'm not on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where fun goes to die. Okay. I was like, whoa, I never heard of that. I was like, wow. Okay, look, here's the reality. The people who can provide opportunities right now, and this may change in the future, are probably a bit older than you. They've just accumulated more networks, resources. They're older. All the old people are on LinkedIn. Old people like me, I may get on Instagram just to annoy my kids, but I'm probably not. So if you want to get access, get onto, you got to go where the water is. Okay? So the first thing is get onto LinkedIn. Okay? Get a good photo. All right? Get a good photo, and don't be one of those people who say, I don't need a photo. I don't look good. Listen, it's being disrespectful for all the people on social when you don't, because people are like, why does that person have a photo? Is that person better than me? Like, they're so cool, they don't need a photo. It's not you being modest or humble. Okay, that's the one thing you've got to learn as a presidential scholar is, in this world right now where there's so much competition, you've been given an unbelievable credential, but that's only going to get you so far. You've got to keep fighting for it, because this world that we've created now is so attention driven that if you're not fighting, I'm not telling you to turn into Kim Kardashian, okay? But you've got to promote yourself. Okay, because you guys have the substance. Our society, I fear, is going to one where style trumps substance every time, right? It overrides it. Okay, presidential scholars, you have substance. You got to add a little style. You got to get yourself known. Okay, so spend some time on that LinkedIn profile. The second thing is write that about section like you would do your college application. You guys wrote great college applications. Don't just list all your credentials, which are cool. There's a credentials section. Tell the world a little bit about yourself. That's why I told you that story. Right? Because people don't, Tom's so smart. Yeah, great. Yeah, that's important. But if you give people more snippets of your life, your interest, there are more connection points. Okay? So here's another question when you're doing networking. How many of you actually read my LinkedIn profile? Okay, Kachiro. So what did I do when I wrote the about section? You can unmute yourself there.
I read it a long time ago, but I vaguely remember like you giving us an anecdote about like your childhood and like how like you were gonna get in a fight, but someone helped you or held you back, and since then you've like always rooted for the underdog or something. Sorry,
You
it was
like
like a long
that.
time.
So you remember that. Did you remember anything else? Probably not.
It was a while ago.
Well, that's great. That was the whole point. So I start my LinkedIn profile with the story of my first day of kindergarten. And if you guys got time, look at it now. I see Olivia nodding her head. Are you looking at it? You're not. Okay.
I'm pulling it up now.
Pulling it out now. Now you're interested. Okay. Sorry, is that who's looking there? Looking very okay. Has anybody seen it? John, what did it say? Why don't you read that first sentence?
All right. As the new Asian kid at elementary school, Tom got into a brawl on the first day of kindergarten. Without the help of his neighborhood friends, he would have gotten the something kicked out of him. Ever since then, he's been rooting for the underdog.
What do you guys think about that sentence or that opening?
It draws you in.
Right? So I talk about kind of what happened, the reality, but I also talk about I got help. And it was really my neighbors who all lived along that block who helped me. And it kind of sets that. Okay, I'm telling you this because I had the worst LinkedIn opening. And I actually spent money to get an advisor on this. So I'm giving you this advice for free, okay? You gotta have, I mean, your social media profile now, it is essentially what the world's first contact with you is. You guys were all able to catch the attention of a panel of presidential White House commissioners, okay? You got to use that same thing in your LinkedIn and social media profiles. Okay, I used to have the most boring one, like, oh, Tom is a venture capital. No, there's a thousand of them. What makes you different? It's got to come out. It becomes more and more important. You all have an amazing story to tell. Start with that. Okay? I haven't read all of your LinkedIn profile, but if you want to send it to me or Natasha or Susan, we're happy to take a look at that, give you some advice. Okay, and again, it has to be authentic.
I've got to redo mine before I give anyone any advice, but I'm going to do that tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Well, look, I mean, Susan can give advice. Look, Susan, I have to tell you, when you did your interview with the board, I thought your Zoom interview, and again, that's important too. How do you master now the Zoom interview?
You're just yourself.
Susan, your interview, or when you talked to us, that was probably the most amazing interview that I've seen. How prepared you were. You had the story. It just, we're in a new day and age. You have to use the technology in your favor.
Well, one thing that I did that I saw you do, Tom, just for the group, is I had notes in 3 or 4 sections. So I knew what chunks of information I wanted to share, and did some pre-planning. I think planning is one of the other secrets of success. This is your session, so I'll
No, absolutely. And in fact, that's all my next thing is,
okay.
When you're networking, whichever teacher or potential employer, whoever you're going to interview, it's so easy. I know you guys have a tough life, but you also have a much easier life. Everything's available on Google. Do a damn name search of the person you're going to meet. I mean, everything is on the internet about that person. Find connector points. If you continue reading I talk about one of my favorite sports teams, the New York Islanders, because I grew up in the shadow of one of the greatest ice hockey dynasties. You'll be surprised at how many people that I've met later on who'll be like, oh, I'm an Islanders fan too. And that immediately gives you something you can talk about. Okay? It's a connection point. So put those on, right? So like Alan, I see in your background, you got Starfleet Command, right? That's cool. In your LinkedIn or whatever, you want, if you're passionate about it, put it on, because when you can talk authentically and passionately about a subject you love, that creates a connection. Okay, that's very, very important. So you got to have a good photo. The other thing on LinkedIn, since I went to this class and I'm going to teach you is, there's not only the profile photo, there's also that background photo. Make sure you set your background photo as well. Okay? Because again, and for the next part of the conversation, I'm going to tell you why the LinkedIn profile is important. And because that gives people more information about yourself. All right? Now, so those are some of the things to do on networking. So let me give you some other quick keys. One is when you're networking, it's actually your weak links. Does anybody know that about network theory, what weak links are? Your weak links are the ones that actually generate the most value for you. Has anybody heard that before? Okay, let me tell you. So does anybody know what a weak link is? Okay, let me tell you. Okay, so right now, all of us are probably I'm going to pick a name here. Meredith. All right. Your direct contacts are probably your friends and your family, right? They're called your strong links. When you're looking for a job or an internship, you're probably going to go to them first. They typically don't result in that much value. Why is that, Meredith? What do you think?
Probably because we have like too much in common. So anything that they're connected to, I'm like already connected to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, you got that on the first try. Okay, so wow, that's great. That's absolutely right. You already know everything about them. You have all their information. They're not going to give you any new opportunities, right? Because everything they know, you already know. So that's the whole point of networking. You got to expand your network, approach those weak links. Who's a weak link here for you? I'm a weak link. Okay? Susan's a weak link. Natasha's probably a closer link. She spent more time with you. But again, it's because weak links. I've got access to opportunities that you probably never heard of, right? So how do you tap into that? Okay. So here's another rule of networking. Okay. The easiest thing to do is when you are, because in essence, what we forget about is networking. What is networking really about? It's asking for what? Anybody? Somebody hop in here. Am I gonna have to pick someone? Jack. What's networking really all about? What are we doing?
Networking is about asking people for help in their stronghold, but also offering your own resources, however you can help.
I love that. God, you guys are so, you're getting them all on the first try. Okay, I got to ask a tougher question. Absolutely. Networking is all about trading favors. You guys write that down? It's about asking for help and then also providing whatever help you can. So the common mistake people make is, I come to you, I need help. Like I'm asking you, give me a favor first. The best networkers offer favors first. Okay, now your question is, well, what do I have to offer? Right? I'm just in high school. Oh, sorry, you're in college now. I take that back. I'm just a college, I'm a young person in college. What can I trade, right? With Tom or Susan, right? Or Natasha, who's already at work. I mean, I don't have anything. Wrong. Okay, what's the first thing you can do is you have access to certain resources too, right? And your resources are, hey, you're part of networks already. How many of you guys are part of this Coca-Cola scholars, right? Other organizations that have honored and awarded you, prizes and accolades. You're part of those networks. So don't forget that, right? Whatever networks you're already in. The colleges you're at, they're massive networks, right? Being able to, spread information, that's fantastic, right? Your friends, your peer group. Do you know people my age are always trying to figure out what your generation is thinking? What's your generation called again? You're not millennials, right? No, you're
Gen Z.
You're Gen Z. Okay, so I'm Gen
Zoomers.
X. Oh, Zoomers. Okay. Just so you know, I'm not a baby boomer. Okay, I'm still Gen X. So right, you see what I'm saying? You have access to what they're thinking. That's what you bring. And then again, what's your greatest resource? Your relentless optimism. Okay, because if you're not optimistic, I'm telling you, old people don't want to deal with pessimistic people. They don't. So if you want to be pessimistic and don't network, because nobody wants to network with, what's the Winnie the Pooh character? Eeyore. Okay? So if you're not feeling in a good mood, don't go out and network, because people will be dragged down by your negative energy. And in your position, you're selling your optimism and your brains, and you're going to offer that, hey, I'm happy to take on some projects. Okay? And here's another secret. Yeah. Here's another secret is you can offer to volunteer, and this is going to tie into my last point, because by volunteering, you're interacting with very senior people, and people who are other volunteers who are older, by nature, they're very generous with their time, or they want to help the organization, right? So people like, myself, we're all volunteers. Okay, so by nature, we're probably more likely to look at your email if you're asking for help. We may not answer all of them. I just want to say that up front, right? If it's poorly written, there's no connection point. But again, your chances are going to be higher. So when you're thinking in your dorm, going, man, the whole world's closing in, I don't have access. You do. The easiest thing is to go volunteer, because here's a secret, another one. How many secrets have I given you all today, right? Volunteering is a job interview. Okay, if you leverage your volunteer experience and you're working with people, they are more likely to help you when an opportunity opens up, whether that's paid or they'll give you a recommendation, an endorsement that opens up other things. Yeah. Okay. And so now the final thing is, Presidential Scholars, just the last point I want to open up for questions. Presidential Scholars is really this ultimate networking platform. So the first thing is you should go on to LinkedIn and check it out. It is our platform. Right now, I think Natasha, myself, and Susan are the only ones posting on it. It is open for all of you. If you are looking for help, go through that alumni network that we have. It's incredible. There's no other organization that has close to 8,000 alumni, multi-generational, multidisciplinary. It's the only organization where nerds can hang out with artists, Nobel Prize winners, business tycoons, government officials, and generals. Okay, look within the LinkedIn. If you're not a member, go in there. Most of the alumni I talk to, they're open to helping, but you gotta ask. Okay, so if you're a young person looking for an opportunity, look in that network, find out people who have similar interests. If you're too shy, DM me and I'll make an intro. But you're not shy people, you're presidential scholars, reach out to them directly. Find a connection point. If you're interested in the medical field, approach Michael Weiss, Dr. Michael Weiss on our board. Right? If you're interested in the arts, contact India. Right? Go through the official foundation. There are people willing to help. And here's another great thing that I want to let you guys know first. We're setting up a number of subcommittees. We're going to be looking for volunteers. What better way to engage and work with some of the most accomplished people who are alumni? They're in the same tribe as you. They want to help you, but they need to know who you are. So how do you get in front of them? I'm telling you, volunteer. Or figure out a project that you want to do on Presidential Scholars. Shine. Because those are job interviews. Amrit's a great example of someone who came to us and said, I've got an idea, I want to do this. If you can carry out a project on your own and make it work, that's a great credential to have when you're applying for a job. Okay? So again, I want to open it up now, but use the platform. That's what I'm saying. It's all of ours. It's not mine, it's not Susan's, it's not Natasha's. This platform is for everybody. And again, it's because of and think about it. So again, the silver lining in this global pandemic is before, we would meet in person, but now we can use the technology. And your generation is the most well-versed in technology. You can lead us to greater heights. Figure out what we should be doing with it. I challenge all of you to come up with ideas on it. Now, the problem with Presidential Scholars is everybody's so goddamn brilliant. So everybody's busy. Okay, so you also have to be persistent. Okay, if you really want it and it's a passion for you, it's a passion project, be persistent, contact us. Natasha was persistent. And she's creating so much value. That opportunity is available to all of you. Okay, but come to us. Okay? And at this point, I think I leave time. Any question, there's no question that's out of bounds. However I can be helpful. I'll take a pause here.
Yeah, people can jump in with their questions, just, talk to the screen, or you can post in the chat and I can moderate and call you by name. On the note of the Presidential Scholars Foundation, Susan, did you have anything to add that you wanted to share?
I used to trade notes with my paper boy every morning. He would leave me a love note and I would leave him a love note on my windowsill. And that was all through high school. And then I went to BU and he went to Harvard. That's a story to match Tom's. I won't use that for LinkedIn. For those of you I haven't met yet, I am the new interim executive director. And I've had the real pleasure of working with many of you, seeing many of you on previous events. Blaine and I connected. He's at University of Rochester in optical engineering, which is what my father did. He went to University of Rochester as an optical engineer. And my nephew just finished a master's program in Rochester at University of Rochester in optical engineering. So we connected very first thing, and I look forward to connecting with others of you. Grant, Namitha, you know, Amrit, we've all shared emails, and I am open. Susan at presidentialscholars.org. So thanks for being here, and happy to help.
Great. Well, we have some raised hands already. I'll call on Olivia, who has a question.
Hi. So you talked about the importance of of updating a profile. Is it important to also post updates? And if so, how often? What should those look like?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you've got, again, an area of expertise that you want to build thought leadership in, again, I don't know, Olivia, what are you studying, or what's your area of passion? Or
So I'm interested in studying CS, but I'm particularly passionate about helping older adults become more socially connected and integrated.
Well, yeah, you should then post. Again, I know you guys are in school, but again, if you see articles you like, if it's authentic, things that you want to share, that you, again, remember, every time you share a post, you're kind of implicitly endorsing it. So it's not necessarily the quantity, it's the quality of the posts. But again, if you only post once a year, you know, you may lose. So again, find that whatever feels right for you, the posting definitely helps because it makes you more visible as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Koichiro. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
That's fine. Sorry, I just wanted to ask, like, you've talked about how we need to be bold and persistent and kind of reach out. Like, how would you go about kind of cold calling or cold messaging people for like internships or just opportunities to get involved, like through LinkedIn or email? Like, how would you go about it?
Again, since you guys took the time out to call, I'm gonna give you guys a quick idea, right? So you guys know we have an official publication called The Medallion, right? And we're always looking for interesting content, right? So I'm gonna give you guys a hack. Up to you if you want to share with your peers or keep it to yourself, because you guys decide to join. Okay, the Medallion is very well written. Again, it's volunteer. Okay, here's a little trick I'm going to teach you. One of the best ways to get a job is to go interview somebody at the company you want to go work at, Koichiro. So what do you want to do?
I'm a business administration major, but I'm something in the finance industry. I'm not exactly sure yet, but.
Okay. All right. So here's your assignment. Look at all the alumni. Are you on LinkedIn?
I made a profile and kind of updated it, but I haven't really.
Have you joined the Presidential Scholars private group? You guys know we have a private group, right?
I think so.
Okay. You go in there, Koichiro. You must be a good writer, right? Because all presidential scholars are good writers. Otherwise, you couldn't have written all the freaking application, right? Right? So here's an idea. Find an alumni in the group that you admire, you connect with, and then for the next or whatever issue of the Medallion, go interview them. Come up with really thoughtful questions, right? And then at the end, ask for advice. An alumni, and you never know. Maybe that opens up to a job opportunity. Maybe it opens up to an internship, but you better have good questions. I'll tell you a very famous story in our business. Do you guys know about venture capital? Okay. So venture capital, there's a very famous guy called Michael Moritz. He invested into Google. And everybody always asks, well, how did he get into venture capital? Okay. He used to be a reporter for Time magazine. And because he interviewed the head of Sequoia, the most powerful VC firm, and he asked such great questions, he was able to engage and get the senior partner of Sequoia for 2 hours. The guy was so impressed, he gave the guy a job. Okay, now I'm not saying, Koichiro, that's going to work out for you, but you know what? Right? It's always hard to cold call someone. Why not find an alumni in our group that's doing what you are interested in doing? You know, just reach out to them, say, hey, I'm looking for advice. You're presidential scholars, you're the same state, or I notice you're the same, well, you know, would you have some time? Or, you know, write for the medallion, say, I want to do an interview. I want to do a scholar spotlight. Tell us why this person should be spotlighted. Koichiro, but you better have good questions, because if you're asking, you know, dumb questions, I guarantee you're not going to get a job. And that's the number one mistake that young people make when they go for these interviews or networking. You don't know enough about your counterpart. And there's absolutely no excuse for it in the day of Google and LinkedIn. All you got to do is go on your mobile phone, type in the guy's name, and read about the background. So if you don't even do that type of preparation, you probably shouldn't get the job. Okay, so I've just given you 2 ideas, and you should reach out to people in the LinkedIn group. Yeah. Next, any other questions? These are great.
I have a question. You know, as you're in venture capital, I'm sure you hear a lot of elevator pitches. How do you pitch yourself? Like, what goes into a good elevator pitch for yourself?
I think, again, it's you know, what do you do, right? What are the key credentials? I think, again, the great thing I'm seeing is you're listing presidential scholars now, right? I think in the old days, we didn't even put that on our CVs. So raising the profile of presidential scholars is something we all have to do together, right? Presidential scholars doesn't really have the cachet of a Rhodes Scholar, I would think. You know what? Whose fault is that? That's our fault. We haven't done a good job. So again, we gotta establish the fact that, oh, if you just say, oh, by the way, I'm blah, blah, I'm Cindy, I'm Anuka, I'm a presidential scholar. Wow, people should go, woo. But then you still need to tell them your story. That's just not enough, right? You know, it's gotta be quick. What are you looking for? And know who it is you're talking to. Now, if you're really bumping into a stranger on an elevator, you know, it's quick. It's what do you do? What are you looking at? Are you looking for an internship? I'm really smart. I'm committed. I'm passionate. And sometimes, again, here's, again, another little thing. If you say, look, I'm willing to take an unpaid internship, or I'm willing to work for free, you know, in this economic environment, I know it may not be feasible for a lot of you, but if you have the runway where you can say, I'm willing to take an unpaid internship at the beginning, I'd like to convert that. It lowers the bar for people to take a chance on you. And I know that's not fair, because for a lot of you, I was work study as well. I had to pay tuition. I had to find a job that paid. But if you had extra time, you find the paid job and then find something that's unpaid that can convert to something that you really like. If you have the means to do that, try that. It'll make getting an internship or that first job a lot easier. Okay. Yeah, next.
We got a question from John.
Yeah, hi, John. Where are you?
Right here. Right here.
Okay.
In your experience, when people approach you, for example, what's the distinction between a good question people ask you and a bad question that people ask you when they're trying to get to know you or get to know, you know, interview you, what have you?
Okay, so if a good question is, you know, somebody that's kind of spent some time, you know, to understand, you know, who I am, or like, it depends. If it's my job, let's say venture, they want to come into venture capital. If their question is, okay, so what is venture capital? That's a bad question, right? You know, if the question is, hey, you know, Tom, you know, SoftBank raises mega fund. How has SoftBank's $100 billion fund affected your industry? Now all of a sudden I'm going, okay, this person is asking another layer down. You see what I'm saying? Or, you know, Tom, the pandemic has created a lot of distress. A lot of companies have suffered. but has it also created any opportunities? Are there any tech companies or tech startups that are benefiting from the pandemic? Now all of a sudden I'm going, okay, this person's thinking. Because those are the questions I'm actually thinking about right now. So John, what field are you looking at one day?
I'm really interested in tech startups, software, that kind of deal.
Okay. So then if you're asking, if you can get into the mindset of the CEO of that tech startup and the issues they're facing, that's a good question to ask.
Thank you.
You see what I'm saying? It's that's the layer of questions. And Koichiro, if you're doing that interview of alum, that's the questions you need to ask. It shows you've done the research. You really know what the cutting edge questions are. Because if you're going in there going, oh, tell me about your company, what does it do? That's not going to impress anybody. Right, John? If you're going to that tech startup, you're interviewing and be like, hey, you know, I've done a competitive landscape analysis, and I'm just in school, but I noticed that your key competitors are these guys. Do you view them as your competitors? Or who do you view as your competitors? Or do you see these guys, because I noticed they're in an adjacent space, but they've also been making moves. I've checked all the social media. Customers love their product. Let me show you. The CEO's like, oh, wow, this guy, John, is really done. He knows stuff that I don't even know. Right? That's impressive.
Right.
Okay. This is great. Keep them coming. Keep the questions coming.
Yeah, next question is coming from Alan.
Yeah, for your LinkedIn, when you connect with someone, what's your advice for that little note that you add? What is your advice for that?
Great. Okay, so again, I think that's a great question. It depends on who. If you're trying to connect with, like, I don't know, someone. Well, there's two-way street, right? One is someone who wants to connect with you, and you wanting to connect with someone. If you want to connect with someone, I get a lot of these cold emails. They're just like, oh, I want to connect. I typically don't connect with people unless I've kind of met them before. Otherwise, your contact list just blows up, right? So ideally, what you want to do is you contact with someone. Let's say you met them at a conference. Let's say you bump into Tim Cook, right? Hey, everybody wants to connect. I don't even know if he connects with people, right? I want to connect with Tim Cook, right? But if you send a cold email, that might be, if you've met a professor or someone who comes to one of your career fairs, that's the perfect time. You leave them a note and you say, hey, listen, would it be okay if I want to connect with you? And then drop them a line. I'm so-and-so. I met you at this event. You know, love to be able to connect with you, you know, blah, blah, blah. I think that will lead, that's more likely to lead to a connection. I don't know, did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, and how do we capitalize on those connections? Like, do we just suddenly just message them or email them or something? What's the best way in your opinion?
Again, I think, again, like I said, networking is about trading favors, right? So again, within Presidential Scholars at Network, it's easy. The easy one is, hey, I'm a Presidential Scholar. You know, I noticed your thing. You know, why we got these common areas of interest. I just love to, instead of going out and saying, I'd like to get a job. It's hard for people to give that answer to you right on the spot without knowing you. The easier low risk, it's sort of like dating, right? You're not going to meet somebody for the first time and say, I love you, right? It's just, hey, do you mind if you're a Presidential Scholar, right? You're also an alum. We share so much in common. It's a difficult environment. I see your fields that I'm in. I'd like to be in one day. I'd love to call you just to get some advice. What that does is it lowers the pressure. You see what I'm saying? And then, and again, be persistent. What I mean is use the law of numbers. The first guy you reach out, chances are they may say no. Don't get discouraged. Reach out to 50 people. I guarantee 10. 1 out of 5 will come back and go, you know what, Alan? I'd love to schedule a call. I'd love to share with you my experience and what I've seen, the do's and don'ts, just like we're doing now. Right? And then you just got to ask and be genuinely interested. Again, that's a two-way street. You've got to listen. And the better questions you ask, the more they're going to be willing to share. I guarantee you, if they're willing to take the call, it's essentially a pre-job interview. If they like you, they will keep and be on the lookout for opportunities that might suit you. Okay? And again, I already noticed within our group, there are a number of other alumni, older alumni who are already in the group. Those are natural people to go reach out to, right? So I know you're listening to me, but also look at the gallery and see who else is in here, right? There's Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Right? All people who can be resources for you. Okay, and she just clapped. Look up Lauren's bio. She's doing very interesting things. The fact that she's here now, right? You can say, hey, I met you here, although we didn't talk. Again, find out if she's doing things that are interesting to you. We have close to 8,000 alumni. There's got to be somebody who's doing something that could be a mentor and advisor for what you want to do. All right, I'm gonna leave you with a quote from Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I see Jack laughing there, right? That's a good quote, right? You like Wayne Gretzky. I'm an Islanders fan, so I didn't like him that much, but I have to acknowledge his greatness. But listen, that's one of the best quotes ever. What's the harm of reaching out to someone? How does that change your status quo? Right now, the answer is already no. So you reach out and they still say no. What's the big deal? You haven't lost anything. That's what I mean by relentless optimism. Who cares? Didn't change your situation. But what if they say yes? What if they provide an opportunity that could be life-changing? Okay, so you got to take advantage of those opportunities. All right, and usually that starts with you got to reach out. Look, the older alumni have no idea what you guys are going through. And maybe that's something you write as a joint LinkedIn message, right? All of you be like, hey, we're looking, we want to reach out. We're the class of 2020. We kind of got the short end of the stick here. And it's been really difficult because if you don't let people know, how are they going to experience what you're feeling? It's been really difficult. What is your class looking for? Someone should lead that. And then we'll send it around. That's the power of the soil. And we don't even have to, lick a stamp and put it on 8,000 envelopes. All you got to do is hit one LinkedIn or one Facebook, the gram or whatever, and it goes out. Life is, in some ways it's a lot better. Okay, but unless you guys ask, nobody knows. Okay? Anything else?
It occurs to me, Tom, that this is a muscle that gets developed, and with experience, it gets easier. So I don't want anyone to freak out that it sounds huge and difficult to do. It's something that the more you do it, the more you benefit and the more you learn and the more successful you are. So just start small and keep going. That's my advice.
Yeah, Susan, I would echo that. Again, I can tell you when I was I was so shy, I didn't ask. But again, those are things you learn. And again, that's why I benefited a lot from what they call seizing every opportunity, that internship.
Right.
And here's the other thing is when you're looking for a job, you guys are all at amazing colleges right now, right? I was very fortunate. I went to Harvard. One of the key mistakes I made going in was thinking that, okay, I got into Harvard. Now my life is set. That is not true. Because once you go into the workforce, nobody cares what college you went into. That's if you're going into business. All they care about is how much money you're going to make for the firm. Okay?
We have another question actually from Mia. Her mic is not working. She has a question about. It is.
Mic. Oh yeah, sorry. I just had trouble with that. But I was wondering. I know you're talking a lot about like establishing connections, which is like arguably one of the hardest part of networking. But how do you actually like keep them, if that makes sense? Like, I know it's sort of like similar to like friendships. Like you have to sort of work at it and like you know, it's like a two-way street. So how does that work for the more like professional networking, where like you might not want to like update them with your life completely, but like how do you keep that connection?
Well, yeah, I think again, if you've built up a relationship with, say, I'm just using again presidential scholars. Let's say there's a connection here with someone who's going to, you know, willing, it takes an interest in you, wants to help you. You're not going to send them, you know, photos of you, you know, at a party. I don't know, like a keg party, whatever it is. You know, that's probably too much information. But again, if you've won any awards or you've done anything that you just want to update folks on, let them know. It really indicates that you're taking the time out, you respect that person, and you're keeping them informed of your life. Right? That's very, that simple gesture. It may not even, the content may not even be that important. It's just like, hey, you know, just thinking about you. I appreciate all the help you gave me before, and here's how I'm doing. And, you know, life, or this is a great thing. The advice you gave me, again, something specific. Again, that's very important as well. You said this, then I applied it and it led to this. I just want to let you know. That's going to make someone's day. Yeah. And remember, you're going to be in that position years from now. One day, you know, in a couple of years, you're going to be the one giving this advice to the next generation of presidential scholars. Right? And you're going to take what you learn. I'm just telling you a lot of the things that I learned from other presidential scholars and my mentors. I mean, that's how society works. Right? So again, we're all hoping that you're going to do something good with it. Yeah, sorry, Susan.
The other thing I would add is when you do communicate, make sure you spell check, that your grammar is good, and that looks decent, that you take the time to really care for what you send.
You know, absolutely. Look, we all get caught up doing mass emails. I can tell you, I was just on another panel yesterday. The worst thing for a startup entrepreneur, John, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, when you're sending out the mass email trying to raise money, make sure you spell and send the right email to the right guy. You know, you're like, oh, hi, Filippo at Gobi Partners. Filippo is the name of the other partner of my competitor. So as soon as I read that, you know, I'm just like, okay, man, you know, at least just get the name right, at least. You know what I'm saying? So little things. Susan is absolutely right. But you're presidential scholars. Your attention to detail is legendary, okay? I know you're not going to make that mistake. Well, you better not.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add like an example from my personal life. Actually, the reason I'm here today is because of Tom. He messaged me on LinkedIn to come to the 55th anniversary conference. That was really my entryway into the Presidential Scholars Foundation. So those types of messages that are personal really do make a difference. And there at the conference, I met a lot of great people, one of who I'm good friends with today. And we periodically send each other emails with just like articles that we think we're interested in. And that might be a good way that you connect with employers or other connections. Just send them an article maybe every month or every 2-3 months. Say, oh, I read this. I thought of you. How's your situation? Those types of things can keep those connections flowing. I still message my bosses from previous internships or professors and just say, oh, how are you these days? You know, hope school's well, hope your situation's good. So, and use your advisors as well. You know, they're a few years into college, maybe a year or so, and they can offer advice. That's what the advisors are there for, is if you have questions like these, you know, how do I build a resume? Do you mind looking at it? You know, please ask your advisors or me, send it to me. I'm always happy to help.
And Natasha, do you want to do a commercial for the Hangouts and the game nights?
Oh, yeah. Actually, we have Namita and Amrit on, so they can tell us more about that.
Yeah, definitely. So Amrit and I both host bi-weekly Zoom Hangouts and then game nights on every weekend. They alternate, and so definitely pull up. It's a good time. It's more relaxing. So if you don't have to be too stressed about, you know, pitching yourself constantly, but it's a good way to really connect with people socially and then establish some really strong friendships that can lead to these types of connections. So definitely come. If you guys are part of the Facebook group already, that's where most of the information is sent. We also send the information in the 2020 group me, but I definitely recommend joining your Facebook group and also your regional Facebook group, because I think we're trying to start more events at a regional level as well. I would recommend joining the one where your home state is in and also where your college is. So yeah, definitely do those things.
Hey, Namitha, could you also post that on LinkedIn?
Yes, we can also post on LinkedIn. I think Amrit, you've been posting, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I usually post the Hangouts every week on LinkedIn.
Oh, good. And we gotta all make sure we're liking them. I mean, it's just sometimes I feel like I post a message, it's just like crickets. It's just like
Dang,
nobody.
I only got 1 like last week. Where y'all at, man?
Yeah. All right. I mean,
Rough
this
life
is
out
only as good as what we decide to invest into it, right? Our time. So that's great to hear. Right.
Marie, tell us what you're doing.
Oh,
Tell us what you're doing right now.
I'm
Yeah.
starting a craniotomy on this little guy here, little mouse, opening up his skull, injecting virus and some fluorescent proteins into his brain in order to map it out on individual neuron level. Yeah, late night in lab.
That is multitasking, man. Dang.
Yeah, no, I wanted to hear this. This is great. Thank you so much for doing this. And you guys should definitely check out, we have like the Ask Me Anything thing run by a couple other volunteers, and they're going to start up like a mentorship program and stuff like that. We have the buddy match too. So there's a lot. And if you guys want to help out with anything, I know somebody reached out this week to be like, hey, we love the Hangouts. Like, we'd love to like help out. And I was like, awesome. Like little things like that. Always feel free.
And again, Namitha, I thought you made a great point. Again, it's not always, again, networking should, again, it's natural, right? You don't got to get tense, because in a sense, everything, what we're doing right now is we're networking, right? Whenever you're doing anything social, you're kind of networking. And here's something else. I mean, right now your social networks are probably not as powerful as you hope. But again, if you're a good person, and you make good friends. That's why there's that old saying, you can judge someone by the friends that they keep. It's true. Because as you get older, if you're a good person, you're a level-headed person, just remember, if you're doing kind of those crazy things now, your friends are always going to remember. And if your friends one day get really successful, they're going to go, oh man, yeah, should we trust Namitha with this? And they're going to be like, oh, well, Namitha was the one who did this crazy thing. You're never going to live that down, you know? So in a sense, that's kind of how you're behaving every day is also networking in kind of in a way. So if you're going into these game nights and you're just a total bore, like you're just rude, you're a cheater, I mean, that's probably, I mean, yeah, you may not be networking, but everybody in that group's going to go, oh, that guy's a jerk. So just remember that. That's the good thing about social media, but also the bad thing, right? Your everything is, there's always people watching.
Well, we want to thank you so much for all your advice. You just gave us a flood of tips and tricks, so thank you so much for your time. We know you have a busy day ahead.
Oh, thank you all. I hope this was helpful. And again, feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm going to tell you another secret. I'm not on Facebook, because I don't want Mr. Zuckerberg stealing all my personal data, but that's a different thing. But I'm on LinkedIn. Again, feel free to reach out. So we already have a connection now because of this panel. And if there's something, intro I can make or any advice, feel free to reach out to me privately or through Natasha or Susan. And again, I know you have choices. The fact that you're willing to spend an hour with me and all of us, I really appreciate that.